welcome to another sunny morning. In fact, the sun's just gone in a little bit, but it has been beautiful sunshine out there. I've been out on the mountain bike already this morning, so mountain bike 1, keyboard 0. It is gorgeous. I'm going to try and keep today's rant short. As you can hear, my voice is still not back to its full strength. I've actually had a really nasty throat infection this week. Last week when I was losing my voice, that was the start of it. During the week I lost my voice, and my voice is coming back now, but I'm still not 100%, and you can hear that in my voice. And I probably will start coughing shortly because I've been speaking for a while. That said, bring you up to speed with my DX7. So last week I think I said that I had a problem with the DX7, but I wasn't going to tell you about it until I fixed it. And I have fixed it. Problem is I can't tell you how. So I'll tell you what the problem was. So as you know, if you've got a DX7, if you've got a Mark 1 and a Mark 2, the cartridges are different. So that's a Mark 1 ROM cartridge, and that's a Mark 2 ROM cartridge. And if I put them together, you can see they are subtly different. Okay? And in order to use a Mark 1 cartridge in a Mark 2, you have to go and buy an adapter. And there is said adapter with a cartridge in it. And they've been merrily working, you know, on my keyboard. And about, I don't know, 4 weeks ago, I got the last of the ROM series, which was number 5, which is this one over here. That's number 3. Oops, that must be number 5, which is this one. So that was the last of the ROM series, or that series of ROM cartridges I got. And I stuck it in the keyboard, and the damn thing wouldn't work. Kept coming back, Cartridge Format Error. So I thought, it's sold a daft cartridge. So then I tried one of the other ones that I knew had been working, and that came up Cartridge Format Error. And then I tried all of them, and they all came up Cartridge Format Error. At which point I thought, I've changed the setting somewhere. But what I couldn't do was work out what I did, because I haven't done any maintenance or changed anything on the DX7 for a good few months now. So I couldn't work out how they stopped working when they had been working. So, you know, I work in the technology business, and you always know that, you know, if something was working, it's no longer working. You know, the first thing to look at is has some fool buggered with it, and as the only fool that buggers with it is me, I'm the fool. But I couldn't work out what I did. So I've been searching on the internet for information around this error for the last few weeks, trying to work out what I have done. And a number of people have come back and they've sort of, you know, given me hints or ideas of maybe what I had done, but nobody really came up with a conclusive, this is what you've done, this is how you fix it. So I'll give you an idea of some of the things that came back. So one guy came back to me and said, John, you need to format the cartridge. This is a ROM cartridge. You can't really format ROM cartridges, but I tried it. And of course the first thing the keyboard said is, can't format cartridge because memory protect is on, which is correct, because for a ROM cartridge it would be protected memory. But it didn't work anyway. Okay, so I went through the whole process, got the error, thought, well, maybe the error just clears the keyboard down, but it didn't work. So that was that one. Someone else came back to me and said it's the adapter. You know, make sure the contact's clean on the adapter. So I did go through and do that. I got some air spray out, went through the contacts on the keyboard, went through the contacts on the adapter on both sides. So went through the contacts on this side, and went through the contacts on this side. Unfortunately, that still didn't work. Still came up with Cartridge Format Error. In the end, I was sort of just looking at the keyboard on Friday, going through a whole raft of menu items, just trying to see if there was something in there that I changed that I needed to set back. And I was effectively mucking around with the performance, the single, the dual and the split keys, and the performance and the edit keys that are on the 2. and all of a sudden the cartridge started to work. I can't tell you how I fixed it, because I don't know, but I have. And then I sort of stopped. I went through each one of my ROM cartridges, so each one of the 7 ROM cartridges over there and a couple others I've got, and they all worked. So I have absolutely no idea how I fixed it. I have, it's working. So I'm going to chalk this one up to a quirk. Hopefully by putting it on a video here and talking about it, if somebody else comes across the same issue, they may have a good chance of being able to fix it the same way as I did, which was just playing with all the keys. Alright, so I can't be of more help to you on that one. The other thing we had last night was, in Europe, it was Eurovision night. So those of you who don't live in Europe, and watching this from sort of far-flung places of the world, what Eurovision is a contest in Europe where each country in Europe basically puts an act forward with a song to sing at this contest, which is hosted by another country, and the country that hosts the contest is normally the country that won it the prior year. So last night was in Sweden because the Swedes won it the year before. So you put a song forward, each country's song goes up and is featured, and then there is a pan-European wide voting system of juries and panels and telephone votes that then feed in, and eventually a country wins. And apparently last night Ukraine won. Unfortunately, I couldn't see the Ukraine win because by the time the Ukraine won, I was absolutely comatose. I was fast asleep. I don't think I actually made it out of the actual singing part of the competition. If I'm honest, I was fast asleep. So, but there were some interesting quirks that sort of a number of my friends brought up last night while we were watching it. The first one is, when did Australia become part of Europe? So apparently in this European singing competition we had Australia, and to really rub it in as well, the Australian entry was sung by a Korean. Genius. As by the by. There is a great graphic going around on the internet this morning where sort of the Eurovision view of Europe, and basically what they've done is kicked Africa out of the way and stuck Australia underneath the bit between France and Italy. It is rather genius. This year we had the Eurovision controversy because the Romanian entry was booted out of the competition before the competition started, because the Romanian state broadcaster that carries the Eurovision contest hadn't paid its fees to the European system. So they got booted out before they started. Big hoo-ha apparently. A number of my friends are Romanian, they were really quite upset about it. But they were all cheering the Hungarian entry anyway, so go work that one out. But as I said, the Ukrainian entry was the one that won. I watched it this morning on YouTube, and all I can say is that the whole idea of Eurovision is it's a non-political organisation. It's meant to be, politically neutral, and the Ukrainian entry was, shall we say, far from politically neutral. But it did win, so that's fair enough. Looks like we're all heading to Ukraine next year for Eurovision, so that should be interesting. The only thing I will say about Eurovision, for those of you who've never seen the Eurovision Song Contest, is traditionally it was always taken as a bit of a joke. All right, we used to have a commentator in this country called Terry Wogan, who sadly died last year, and Terry was used to take the whole thing as a complete wind-up from start to finish. He was very deadpanned. The comments he used to make were brilliant. And he took it from sort of like when it sort of started, because it was 60 last year, so as long as I can remember, so mid-70s I suppose when he took it over, and he handed it over to another Irish commentator called Graham Norton, who used to sort of like to pitch up, and they always used to do things in their own language, which they're entitled to do, and they always used to do things which wasn't always appropriate to the song that was being sung or the audience. So some of these countries always wondered why they never won.